So welcome back to the Scotland 9-hole Cup Expert Division weekend round, hole number 4. Here we're going to be setting up to play the sniper funnel shot using a King Slayer or a King Maker type ball, P3, side spin 3 plus, preferably a wind 4, but it can be played with a King Maker. It has been tested with a King Maker. However, I still recommend that you play it with a King Slayer or equivalent, uh, just to give yourself less wind change and wind push that you have to account for. APOC 5 plus, Sniper 9 plus. Make sure you're going to want to pack the Grizzly so that you have a hard men line, because we're going to be counting rings for men on the approach shot. So it's best to have the Grizzly in your bag so that you don't have to mess around with the men line. It's real easy to set up at men. Very similar shot to what we was playing in the qualifying round with a few changes. What we're going to do here to find our landing position is add spin first, which is 5.8 top spin and 3 right spin. All right, 5.8 top, 3 right. And once we get our spin set, what we're going to do is we're going to shift over until our third bounce is just out of the rough on the other side. So if you look right here, the third bounce is just out of the rough line, and the ball guide develops a slight tail on it. Right? That's what we want to look for. So either slide. Generally, I'll start further to the right and then slide it left along the P3 max line until I get that tip of the ball guide to just click long. But you can do it either way. You can start to the left and slide it right till it clicks short, and then just click it back to the left until it clicks long. Either way, this is what you want it to look like, so that we're not having to try and line up the ball guide and line up with trees, and we don't have to try and look at these shadows as any sort of reference, because they're difficult to judge. So that third bounce just into the fairway, out of the rough, that's what we want to see. Once you get it there, you're in the correct position. From there, we're going to adjust P3 plus 10% max. You're going to want to pull this straight, but if anything, you want to favor a 59 flicker over a 1201 flicker. And you want to pay attention to the plus yards that you pull down to, because we're going to need OP according to the plus yard that we pull down to. And we have to do that because we're catching several different wind angles here, and we can't just rely on wind strength, right? Because sometimes you'll get a more crosswind, you know, with a higher wind, and you'll only pull down to the 5 or the 6. Sometimes you get a low wind, but you get the more tailwind, and you'll pull all the way down to the 1, 2, or 3. And so that makes a difference. So we have to pay attention to the plus yards we adjust down to, and you'll use OP as needed based on those plus yard numbers. If you pull down anything plus 5 or higher, then you'll play it with just before circle drop overpower. If you pull down to the plus 3 or the plus 4, then it plays circle drop overpower. If you pull down to the plus 1 or the plus 2, then you'll play it just before circle break overpower. And if you pull down out of plus yards anything at the plus 0 or lower, you'll play it circle break overpower. So just until the circle breaks. And that's going to give us consistency on the rollout, and hopefully put us in the best position to grab this albatross. So here I pulled down to the +4. I play this with circle drop OP. We should bounce nicely, clip the rough about roughly a half a ring or so away from the top of the rough line. So we got a little bit of play, and we end up right at the 357 yard mark. That is exactly where I want to be, 357. If you do happen to, catch some sort of weird bounce, or you hit a great ball with an APOC 8, minor great lefts have been safe, and I've still been able to play the approach. Minor great rights have also been safe. The only difference is with the great right, I don't get the same rollout. So with the great right, I was ending up roughly 10 yards or so short, usually around 348 to 350 with the great right, but it still gives you the opportunity to play the approach shot. You just have to count more rings from men. It still plays the same way with the same spins and the same adjustment, just more rings for men. So for the approach shot, you have to pay attention closely to where the ball guide turns and starts coming back down toward the hole. So we're going up the hill. The ball guide is going to make a sharp turn and start coming back down the hill. The top of that ball guide where it turns is going to be what we're paying attention to, along with where the tip of the ball guide is. So we're going to offset the tip of the ball guide based on wind strength, and we're always looking to have the ball guide turn right at the bottom of the dark row, or roughly 2 squares short of the fringe on the top. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm showing you this replay because in some situations, the ball guide is going to be glitchy and it isn't going to want to set up as low as we want it to set up. And so if you get yourself in that situation, don't spend a whole lot of time trying to, adjust your spins, or keep sitting there spinning your wheels trying to find the spot that you need to have it to where it's sitting in the perfect position. 4 backspin, 2 left spin. All right. That's our spin set. You should not need to change your spins. The only thing you'll have to do here is pay attention to where that ball guide turns and pay attention to the tip of the ball guide. So with the spin added, we're going to count rings for men until the tip of the ball guide is roughly 2 squares below the whole fringe on the top. And so if you notice here, I was getting kind of glitchy ball guide, and it didn't want to set up in the correct spot. So what I'm looking for, usually when the ball guide is not as glitchy, that ball guide will stop and turn right around this area right here. And so this is the bottom of the dark row here. That's the line that we want it to stop and turn at. All right. So if everything is working properly and you're not catching some kind of weird glitchy ball guide, it'll set up right there. It'll turn right at that line, and you'll be able to have that tip of the ball guide, where you want it to be. But sometimes it doesn't, and you'll need to set it up a little bit higher like I have here. So we're way into this dark row, almost to the top of this dark row. That's okay. What you need to do, if it's set up this way, is you need to add 2 to 3 clicks of underpower to the approach shot to ensure that you don't roll up too high and throw you offline. Because with this adjustment, we actually roll about a half a square higher than the ball guide is showing. So if I didn't add any underpower to this shot and I just played it straight the way it is, then it would end up coming way up here and almost clipping the fringe on the top. We don't want that to happen. So don't freak out if it doesn't want to set up in the proper spot. Just set it there. Make sure you shift it over to where your ball guide is, the tip of the ball guide is aimed according to your wind strength. So if your winds are in the 6s, you want that tip of the ball guide to be in the center of the cup. If your winds are in the 7s, you want it to be in the left center of the cup. And if your winds are in the 8+, you want to be aiming at the left edge, or maybe even just a click outside of the left edge of the cup. And so you'll see here, I'm gonna, now that I got it kind of settled where it's gonna be as far as the up down goes, my ball guide is pointing, kind of at the right edge of the cup. I'm gonna shift it to the left until I get that tip where I want it, and then I'm gonna fire away. And the only thing I'm gonna do different is, because I'm set up so high, I'm gonna add a little bit of underpower to this. You want to pull this one with a slight 1159 flicker. Absolutely do not want to pull this with any 1201. All right. So I shifted it left. Now we got it where we want it to be. So the final result is this. Our tip of the ball guide is aimed in the left center of the cup. It turns about halfway up into that dark row, so I know I need a little bit of underpower. Beyond that, make sure that you pull this with that slight 1159 flicker. Add underpower only if you need it. If you're set up and your ball guide turns at the bottom of that dark road, then you don't need any underpower. If you're into that dark road, then add a couple of clicks of underpower. You see here, I add a little bit of underpower, 2 to 3 clicks. That's all you need. Don't need to get crazy with it. You see, I added the underpower and I rolled up to right around where I was aimed. Right? So it turned exactly where I was aimed. That's with the underpower. If I hadn't added the underpower, it would have been higher than I wanted it to be. And although I haven't gotten stuck up there, it is possible for you to get stuck on the top if you forget to add your underpower. So don't forget, pay attention to that. P3 minus 50% at slider. 4 back, 2 left, slight 1159 flicker. Underpower if you end up setting up too high, and then offset according to the wind strength. Right? So it may sound a little complicated. It's not. I'm just kind of going through all the details that you need to give you the best opportunity to drop. This is actually a pretty consistent drop here. So practice it a couple times. Make sure that you're getting these same results that we are. Once you get it figured out and you got your pull angle squared away, and you know when you do or do not need the underpower, you should hopefully be dropping this one every time. The only other thing to note is if you hit a bad grade, or you catch some kind of weird bounce on the drive, or you don't set it up quite right, if you pull and you're into the tree, when you start to adjust, what I would recommend is just keep an eye out for that. If you see your ball guide disappear and you pulling into the tree when you adjust it, just stop wherever you're at, then add left curl and baby underpower to try and make up for whatever you were unable to adjust. Do not keep pulling into the tree. if you keep pulling into the tree, you will clip the tree, right? So just pay attention to that. Most of the time, even with minor grates, it hasn't been an issue for me, but I have seen it pulled into the tree, and that's what was needed to get a good clean shot at the drop. So T310 max on the drive, straight. If anything, favor 59, overpower as needed, depending on plus yards pull down to. P3 minus 50 at slider on the approach, 4 back, 2 left. Make sure you're pulling that 59 flicker on the approach. And rings from in with your sniper. 1 is 3%, 2 is 5, 3 is 8, 4 is 11, 5 is 13, 6 is 16, 7 is 18, 8 is 21, 9 is 24, 10 is 27, 11 is 29 slider, 12 is 32, 13 is 35, 14 is 38, 15 is 41, 16, 43, 17, 46, 18 is 49, 19 is 51, 20 is 54, 21 is 57, and 22 is 58% slider. I'm giving you all them numbers because if you hit great right, your drive will roll short and you're going to end up right around 17 to 18 rings from men. But the good news is it still plays the same way and it still has the same spot and the same chance at a drop, provided you pull it correctly and hit it perfect. Good luck, everyone. Hope you all get the drop. We'll see you on the next one.